And this is a Biden White House that was meeting with social media companies, dictating what they put on their platforms before the 2020 election. That, to me, is suppression. This is a White House that killed a Hunter Biden story that we now know is true, that prevented voters from knowing that before the 2020 election. That, to me, is suppression. It's just ridiculous for them to say that. And let's look at what they're fighting at on voting laws. We are in 72 lawsuits right now, the RNC is, with Democrats going into states saying we want to get rid of voter ID. Why wouldn't we want voter ID? Why shouldn't you say who you are to vote? Every American agrees with that. We have to get ID out to buy Sudafed, and they don't want you to show an ID to vote. Why are they doing that? That's not good for democracy. So they are absolutely the threat to democracy, and they're trying to dismantle our elections and our social media and control the narrative, and they're doing it in their own primary.
It's certainly worth looking at the actions of both parties and weighing what they have and haven't done to actually suppress anyone's vote.
Ronna McDaniel must be thinking that more and more Americans are understanding how serious Donald Trump is about getting a second shot at ending democracy. And watching him flail about the 91 charges he faces isn't helping either. The GOP has failed at blaming his attempts on Antifa, BLM, the FBI, Nancy Pelosi, Capitol Police, and probably Hunter Biden. So the newest strategy is to claim that President Biden is the real threat to democracy. Martha McCollum also wanted to weigh what each party has done to suppress anyone's vote. Okay.
Multiple capital injuries. Multiple capital injuries.
That was the desperate last option. But here's another thing to put on the scale since we're weighing what each party's done.
And was simply this. We had over 100 congressmen and senators on Capitol Hill ready to implement the sweep. The sweep was simply that. We were going to challenge the results of the election in the 6 battleground states. They were Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, and basically these were the places where we believed that if the votes were sent back to those battleground states and looked at again, that there would be enough concern amongst the legislatures that most or all of those states would decertify the election.
Yeah, you just described this plan as a way to take an election where the outcome was established by independent secretaries of state, by the voters of those states, and legal remedies have been exhausted with the Supreme Court never even taking, let alone siding with, any of the claims that you just referred to. So legally, they went nowhere. And then you're describing a way that the incumbent, hold on, you will get your turn. I just let you go for a while. Let's go this back and forth, sir. Then you will use the incumbent losing party's power, that was the Republican Party that was losing power, to overtake and reverse that outcome. Do you realize you are describing a coup?
Well, there's a couple other things that Republican legislators have made clear about who they think gets to vote and who doesn't. It makes sense that Ronna McDaniel is trying to come up with Plan B because House Republicans' plan to investigate and get a revenge impeachment vote isn't looking that great either.
Understand why you have had to take so long to actually get a vote to impeach or get this impeachment inquiry going. Do you feel that you have the votes within the House right now to get a formal impeachment inquiry?
I do. And I had a reporter ask, well, what's changed? You know, because the press has been writing we didn't have the votes forever. And I said, well, I'll tell you one thing that changed. We were in Washington, D.C. for 10 weeks, and there are about 15 or 20 moderates that they really worry about what CNN says or what the Washington Post writes. And they were getting in their head, Maria. But a great thing happened during Thanksgiving. The members went home. Many of them for the first time and circulated for the first time in over 10 weeks. And they met people in Walmart and people on Main Street. And they're like, what in the world have the Bidens done to receive millions and millions of dollars from our enemies around the world? And did they not pay taxes on it? So they heard from their constituents, yes, we want you to move forward. We want to know the truth. And we expect the Bidens to be held accountable.
So we've got Rasmussen, 538, New York Times, Washington Post, and the Walmart poll that encouraged Republicans to finally join in on Comer's impeachment plan. All those shoppers must have heard about these nefarious car payments, too.
The Oversight Committee that you're on says that in 2018, Hunter Biden sent payments to his father using a business account that received payments directly from China. According to the subpoenaed records, the payments were nearly $1,400 and happened monthly. Hunter's defense is that he was paying his dad back for car payments.
On what car? This is a joke. Listen, one of the things, I'm from the banking industry. One of the things that we always knew is that if there were these loan agreements that were floating out there with no actual loan document, that is tantamount to money laundering and tax evasion. That's exactly what that is. You're trying to conceal the flow of money to somebody, and you're trying to conceal it from the Internal Revenue Service. Joe Biden has run the country for years saying that everybody needs to pay their fair share. He doesn't want to pay his fair share, and neither does his family. And they've been hiding that money from the IRS and from the American people.
They ask questions, they get answers. But since those answers don't match up with the speculation that their leadership goes on TV to push, they come up with their own scenarios with absolutely no evidence. Again, if the Bidens did all this stuff, I would love to see the evidence rather than mention of a bank transaction followed by theories and hypotheses.
So it was no skin off Joe Biden's back. You know, when my son needs help or my daughter who's in college needs help, I just give her money. Nobody ever pays me back.
Open and shut case. James Comer gives money to his college-age daughter and doesn't expect any money back. So, of course, Joe Biden receiving repayments from his son and his brother are obviously dirty. Sadly, though, Comer has even had more problems convincing some of the most eager people that would have loved to have believed him. He just keeps coming up empty.
Your party, the Republican investigators, say that that's proof of influence peddling by Hunter and James. But that's just your suggestion. You don't actually have any facts to that point. You've got some circumstantial evidence. And the other thing is, of all those names, the one person who didn't profit is there's no evidence that Joe Biden did anything illegally.
Well, if you look at the laptop and the emails between the president's son and his associates, they went to great lengths to hide Joe's involvement. They even gave him nicknames. They called him the Celtic and the big guy. But make no mistake, Joe Biden was involved. We're at the very beginning stages of this, but in talking with the informants that we have, some of the former Biden associates that nobody's heard from yet, we know that Joe Biden was actively involved.
Where is that informant today? Where are these whistleblowers?
Well, unfortunately, we can't track down the informant. We're hopeful that the informant is still there. The whistleblower knows the informant. The whistleblower is very credible.